All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Thursday. We are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Autumn Wagner, and I am the Adolescent Support Coordinator at Mission West Virginia. And I am going to be opening up our presentation for today. Today's presentation is on suicide prevention. So our schedule, I'm going to go over who Mission West Virginia is and our programs. And then we will have our presentation by the lovely Miss Morgan Duffy. And then we will have some time at the end for questions and answers. So who is Mission West Virginia? Mission West Virginia is leading a statewide effort to promote positive futures for all kids in West Virginia. We work alongside families as they navigate West Virginia's foster care system and provide evidence-based life skills education to help teens envision and create positive futures. As a result of our work, putting kids first in collaboration with social services, school districts, private foster care agencies, and other nonprofits, the future looks brighter for West Virginia. And if you want to learn more information, our website is down below at www.missionwv.org. So our first program that we have is Frameworks. So this program provides support for those that are interested in foster care or kinship care to help people understand the system, find a placement agency, and prepare to make a meaningful difference in the life of a child. If you are interested in learning about how to become a foster or adoptive parent in West Virginia, you have come to the right place. If you would like to speak with somebody on the phone, you can call our number at 866-CALL-MWV or 304-512-0555. You can also request information packets on our website, which the website is listed down below. Our THINK program. So THINK stands for Teaching Health Instead of Nagging Kids. So our THINK program empowers teens to make positive life choices through education, life skills, and coaching. Our program is evidence-based and it helps students we work with navigate the social emotional pressures all teens face as they develop. This includes building healthy relationships, healthy choices around drugs, alcohol, and pregnancy prevention. We deliver our program in partnership with schools in 20 counties here in West Virginia. We are vetted by district leaders, teachers, and other school leaders who are trained to work with kids. Our program's evidence-based curriculum has been shown to have a positive effect on preventing teen pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections, and sexual risk behaviors. Our educators are continuously trained on the most up-to-date information on trauma, sexual health, and high-risk behaviors. Our management team does on-site observations of our educators regularly to ensure fidelity is being followed. We also administer pre and post surveys, receive teacher feedback, hold teen focus groups, and site satisfaction surveys. We also provide lots of workshops and trainings. We know it takes a whole community to help teens envision and create positive futures. This is why we also provide resources and training to equip parents, families, and any other individual who supports kids as they navigate their teen years. So some workshop and trainings include talking to youth about sensitive or hard topics, hidden in plain sight, trauma, sexual assault prevention and consent, teen dating violence, and much more. Mission West Virginia is now excitingly able to offer social work CEUs. And so I sent a message in the chat that has the survey link that you can go and take after. And then once that is completed, oh my goodness, my mind went blank. I'm sorry. Our person who does the CEUs, Rebecca, she will get this all put together and the certificates will be processed in within 3 business days, and you should get them within the week after our webinar training. If you, for some reason, did not receive your certificate, please make sure that you reach out You'll also want to make sure that you are checking your spam folders as well. And I will send out that message again throughout the presentation and also at the end that has the instructions as well as the survey link. So, meeting our speaker, Miss Morgan Duffy-Simpson. Morgan is an adolescent support coach at Mission, West Virginia. She has her bachelor's and master's degrees in social work from Marshall University and is a licensed social worker in the state of West Virginia. In her position, Morgan meets one-on-one with middle and high school students who need extra support due to past or current experience with trauma, mental health struggles, substance use, high-risk sexual behaviors, relationship issues, poverty, or any other life stressors. Morgan also provides youth with education and resources to other community organizations. Morgan is specially trained on the topics of human trafficking, sexual assault, rape culture, and helping advocate for survivors who have lived through trauma. A couple of fun facts about Morgan. She loves food, exercise, and Jesus. So we will go ahead and get started. So I'm going to stop my Morgan. It is all you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, let me share my screen with you guys. Okay. Thank you guys for being here today. I just always want to say thank you to everyone who supports us here at Mission West Virginia. I think helping youth across our state, it's always a group effort, and so we need each other. And so I'm just thankful for you all. I was reading where you're from in the state, just what you guys do. And so I'm grateful to see a lot of different advocates, people from different places and counties all over West Virginia. So I'm happy to have you guys here. And hopefully we'll get to meet at some point in the future face to face. But for today, we are talking about suicide prevention for youth. When we put this out for people to sign up for it, it was specifically geared towards kind of like caretakers, parents of youth, anyone who is close with youth. And so we are going to be focusing on suicide prevention from that angle today. So we'll go ahead. There we go. Okay, so just a trigger warning for us today. I'm sure all of us work in the space with trauma, with difficult things that we go through every single day. But we still want to offer a trigger warning. You know, these are really difficult conversations to have, but they are worth it. They are necessary to be had at the same time. But if you feel it difficult to be listening during this time, we just really encourage you to take care of yourselves. Do whatever you need to do during this time. Even if you need to leave and come back to the webinar, that's totally fine. We understand. Also, talk with someone afterward if you need to, whether that's a supervisor. You can also email one of us here at Mission, or maybe like a therapist that you guys have. Okay, so just in general, we're going to go over suicide really quick. What is that? We're going to go over the risk factors for youth, signs that they may be showing in their life, that we can look for as adults, as caretakers, as youth service workers. But then we're going to spend some time on how we can respond to those youth. And ultimately, at the very end, we're going to talk a little bit about self-care, because it can be really difficult to talk with youth who are going through these things. So we want to take care of ourselves in the process as well. So suicide, it is when a person decides to end their life because they're in extreme pain. That pain could be for so many different reasons, and it can show up in so many different ways in a youth's life. But that pain is usually emotional, mental, psychological, and or physical. Or for a lot of our youth, they're experiencing a mixture of all of those, or one or two of them. So again, we are talking about this for a lot of different reasons, but we're talking about it because suicide and mental health are real. We see this in our spaces that we work in, our youth across the country and the world, but also West Virginia and our own communities where we're at. We are seeing youth dying by suicide. I know, we're in Putnam County, but we're also in the different counties surrounding Putnam as well. And even just last year, we had at least one youth that I know of who had died by suicide in one of the schools that we were in. And so it's not just something of the past, it's something that's currently in our schools. It is okay and it's good to talk about. This is how we start decreasing stigma, and it's how we continue to help our youth be okay with talking about these things, and also help our adults be okay talking about it, helping the school staff be okay talking about it, help parents be okay talking about these topics as well. You may know youth who are struggling in your community, or you will probably know youth who struggle in the future. So this is a great time to learn, or even just probably a refresher for a lot of us. Um, and suicide, it really does start to lose its power when we talk about it. Again, not just with our youth, but with our entire communities that we're in. So who does suicide affect? Essentially anyone and everyone. It doesn't discriminate. A person can die by suicide no matter their race, their age, gender, culture, financial status, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity. It truly affects everyone. And even, I'm sure we all see this again in our communities, but if we see a youth struggling with suicidal thoughts, or maybe they've attempted suicide, we see how that affects everyone else around them and how it ripples to everyone else. We see that person's peers, their parents, their extended family members, um, teachers, a school, a whole county, a whole state. And so truly, suicide doesn't just affect individuals, but whole groups of people. So, why may a youth be deciding to die by suicide? There are many, many different reasons that we're going to go over, and we're going to be going over more of these in detail. So, mental health struggles, for one, relational struggles. So, that could be family, friends, partners. Loss or grief is a huge one. Trauma, and again, I might say this a few times throughout today, but it's probably a mix of maybe not all of these. It could be all of them for some of our youth, but it might just be one or two or three. So with mental health struggles, we're gonna go through all these topics that I just said back here. We're going to go through them one by one and just kind of look at what it might look like for our youth to experience these different struggles. Obviously, there is so much information about mental health out there. A lot of us on this call are mental health professionals, but obviously our youth are not just struggling with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, but these are the main three. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go over every single mental health struggle that our youth are experiencing. But if you guys do have more questions about any other mental health issue that is not depression, anxiety, or ADHD, definitely email us, email me. My email will be at the very end of this presentation. And I would love to talk with you guys about maybe how other different mental health struggles may affect youth and may lead them to think about suicide. So, anyways, with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, there can be a lot of different reasons why a youth may be experiencing these, and also a youth may decide, or they may be having thoughts of suicide. With depression, well, not just depression, but all three of these. they can be really overwhelming to deal with, not just as a youth, but as a person in general. And so with depression, anxiety, and ADHD, if a student doesn't have the coping skills to deal with these struggles, if a student um, gets so stressed, and again, if one of these mental health struggles is coupled with other stress in the youth's life, maybe with another mental health struggle, maybe it's co-occurring, that's again gonna add more and more stress to the youth. Specifically, there might be a an area of impulsivity with our youth that we might see where if they are experiencing these mental health struggles and they're thinking of suicide, because of their age, because of their brain development, because of their hormones, we can see that they may act more impulsively than adults may. And so that can definitely be a component with mental health struggles, um, along with youth thinking of suicide. So, relational struggles, we unfortunately see youth dealing with this probably most every day, if not every week or monthly. We're seeing our youth in families that look different. All of us across West Virginia, we know that our kids and our students, they are not in typical biological dad, biological mom homes. We're seeing grandparents take care of students, aunts, uncles, foster parents, blended families. And so just having even just that trauma in a student's life can be very difficult for them. Peer conflict, just not maybe getting along with peers, or maybe they are getting along, but they're just having these differences of opinion. They're trying to understand themselves in this season of life. Maybe they're going through bullying. They may have conflict with their significant other, their partner that they have. And especially for youth, these relationships are so important to them. And I think that's really what we have to um, pick up on with them. That's what we have to really bond over them with is, hey, what is important to you as a youth? And for them, it's their relationships. And so if they're going through a breakup, if they're going through a falling out with one of their friends, that is probably very difficult on them, because that's a lot of what's in front of their face, what they're seeing. Also, a parent divorce can obviously be really difficult on a child. Some children may feel like it's their fault, even though we could tell them over and over again, it's not your fault. They may take on a sense of blame, even though it's not theirs to carry. Um, Even if a youth has someone that they know that's struggling with mental health, that has become a very big thing that I've noticed amongst the youth that I'm working with. Um, is that they have a lot of people in their life who are struggling with mental health, and they're taking on the load, like the emotional load of trying to help care for those people, whether that is their parents or their partner or their friends. Maybe it's their siblings. um, I don't know about you all, but I'm seeing a lot more of our youth feeling like they have to be the parent in a situation, or maybe not even a parent, but they have to be a caregiver. And that can put a lot of stress on a youth. Going to loss or grief, man, loss or grief can really hit our students in so many different ways, but it might not only just be the death of someone that they know or love, but it could just be the loss of something. It could be a loss of safety for them. Maybe for our youth, they experience just negative experiences at school, in their community, in their home. And, with that feeling of a loss of safety, that can bring so much stress onto a youth. It can bring a lot of overwhelm onto a youth. And so we're not just looking at someone who may have died in their life, we're looking at grieving a friendship that where maybe they had a falling out with that person. Again, like we were talking about with relationships, um, youth grieving in a breakup, youth grieving the death of a pet, or maybe a pet ran away. Loss and grief can obviously look really different for each person and for each student, and may hold different weight for each student. Experiencing trauma, there is such a wide range of trauma. I'm not gonna act like we can put it into certain categories or, we're not gonna go through every single way that a student can experience trauma. But obviously, we do have a lot of youth that experience sexual assault, sexual harassment, sexual abuse in general, physical abuse, emotional abuse. Any of these are traumatic for youth to go through. Things that aren't on here would be poverty is obviously a huge one for West Virginia. Natural disasters that have occurred in the past decade or so for the time that our youth have been alive. Even just Appalachian culture, not saying that Appalachian culture is traumatic, but it is a different culture to grow up in. And so there can be aspects of growing up in a specific culture that might be triggering or traumatic for a specific person. So even just being aware of that. And then also being in a minority group. Again, West Virginia is predominantly white. And so if we are looking at students who do not look white, or if they are in a minority in the LGBTQ plus community, there are a lot of different ways that a person can experience being in a minority group. But even just paying close attention to race, gender, sexual orientation, our youth, they're experiencing trauma in a lot of different ways. So looking at causes of suicide, everything that we just looked at, it can cause so much stress and so much overwhelm for our youth. Um, Maybe they're put into situations where they're carrying a lot of stress that they shouldn't be carrying. And so these feelings of overwhelm, these feelings of hopelessness, our youth, it usually leads them, I don't want to say usually, but sometimes it can lead them to feel trapped. They may feel like they can't get out of a stressful mindset. Maybe they feel very blocked in a lot of different ways. And a lot of our youth, not just our youth in West Virginia, but just youth in general, they're learning coping skills. They are learning how to get through life at this point, right? And so they usually do not have the adequate amount of coping skills to be able to get through the stress or overwhelm. Usually they're having to go to different outlets to try to relieve that stress, relieve the overwhelm. Um, and maybe they don't even realize that. That's part of our jobs on this call is to help them realize what they're using as coping skills. But if they don't have that adequate amount of coping skills, then it could lead them to start thinking, well, I don't know how to do life. The only way to do this would be to end my own life. And then lastly, genetics. It can run through a family, whether that's mental health, whether that's just a predisposition to certain health conditions. We all know that mental health can be passed down through families. So what may youth do if they are thinking about dying by suicide? Here are some signs for us to be looking for and to be aware of with our youth that we're working with. If a youth is talking about dying by suicide, or if they are just like making jokes about suicide, that can also be a way for a student to cope with these things. Talking about feeling guilt, shame, talking about being a burden or feeling like a burden to others, just that language in general, giving away some of their possessions, especially things that they hold really dear to them. So maybe to someone else, it may not look special per se. But if we know, oh, this, I don't even know. I'm looking at a fidget toy right now. So maybe a student has like a specific possession of theirs that is they always carry it with them. It's almost like a safety net for them. Like if we see them giving that away to their best friend or their favorite teacher, or really to anyone, if they're giving away any of their possessions, that is something to look for. Eating more or sleeping more, or on the other end of the spectrum, eating less or sleeping less. Sending a goodbye text or note. This could also look like putting out a goodbye message on social media, on Snapchat. Um, but usually from what I have seen, um, I have seen majority of youth do this in some type of digital way. Um, just because we're in a digital age. But I don't want to say that people would not leave a goodbye note because there are definitely many times where people will leave a physical note. But I think from what I've seen in my personal experience with youth, a lot of it has been happening over phones, text messages, social media. Becoming quiet or less talkative than normal, or we're really just looking for like a change in personality for our youth. They may suddenly appear relieved. So with this, this may seem kind of weird for some of us. Like, why would they appear relieved if they're in such turmoil? If they have a plan or if they are thinking of dying by suicide, then just that thought to them could be really relieving of we're not gonna have to deal with this all anymore. I'm not gonna have to deal with all this stress and overwhelm anymore. It'll be over soon. And so to have that mindset is why a youth may appear relieved. Taking part in risky behaviors, if they don't care much for if they live or not, then they may be more risky with what they're doing in life. And then especially looking out for if a teen or youth, if they're obtaining the means necessary to die by suicide. So we'll look at that more later of just being aware of what's around a youth, firearms, um, any medication, any toxic substance that they could utilize to harm themselves. So reasons youth do not die by suicide: to seek attention. Many adults and youth, I've heard people of all age groups say this, that um, youth are either attempting or talking about suicide or dying by suicide to seek attention. To that, I would say no one goes to that extreme of a measure to receive attention. And even if they are needing attention, if they are seeking it, then obviously they need that attention if they are struggling with those thoughts of suicide. People don't die by suicide because they're crazy. People who struggle with suicidal ideation, they are struggling with mental health. They are struggling with extreme pain. And so I think there's a better way to phrase these things. There is a less stigmatizing way to phrase, like, hey, someone needs help. This person needs help. That's okay to say. It's okay to admit when someone needs help, but there's no need to use the language that someone's crazy. Um, we're definitely trying to move away from that language. And also to make others feel bad. People do not die by suicide to make others feel bad. Many people may think that, others might attempt suicide or have suicidal thoughts to get revenge on someone. But again, no one would go to that extreme of a measure just to get revenge on someone. They are in emotional pain, emotional turmoil. So, what to do if you are worried about a youth, if you suspect that a youth is thinking about dying by suicide? The best thing to do is to ask this youth. Um, obviously we'll go into more about this. So when we are asking a youth if they are thinking about suicide, one, it's not going to hurt to ask them. There is a large myth for a long time that it's gonna hurt someone more to ask them if they're thinking about suicide, when in reality, it's probably gonna be pretty relieving for that person to finally get it off their chest of like, wow, I can breathe. I can tell someone that I'm struggling and I can have someone else to help carry this weight with me. You're not going to make things worse by asking, let's say a youth isn't thinking about suicide, and we go up to them and we ask them because maybe we're worried. And we ask and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not having suicidal thoughts." Well, then maybe we walk away worried, "Oh my gosh, well, what if I just put that thought into their head?" We do not have that power to put that thought into someone's head to attempt suicide. It takes a lot more than that. And again, like we were talking about in the very beginning, it is helpful to talk about suicide because that's how we prevent it. By talking about it, we make people feel more comfortable surrounding the topic, more comfortable to ask people when they're struggling, and more comfortable just to be able to bring awareness to the topic. So, if a youth is thinking about suicide, these are things to not say, and then some things to say. So, let's say you're talking to a youth and you ask them, "Hey, are you thinking about suicide?" And they say, "Yeah, I actually am. I've been really struggling and really wrestling with this." Um, if you if a youth does say that to you, let's look at the dark blue box first. Some things not to say. Um, Sometimes I think we may get caught up in being scared in the moment, maybe not believing the youth, like maybe just being caught off guard or being in shock. But this is why we're looking at it right now, so that we know, hey, let's think about these things before we say them. Um, and hopefully we're thinking of these things before we're put in a situation like this. But we don't want to respond in disbelief. We don't want to tell the youth, "Oh, well, I know you don't mean that. I know that you would never do that." You're not actually thinking about killing yourself, right? Saying those things is gonna make the youth believe that we don't believe them, or maybe we don't believe that they're actually struggling as much as they actually are. Invalidation, so telling the youth, you're not going to do that, or saying, you have a great life. Why are you thinking about suicide? You have a home to live in, you have food, you have great friends. Why would you even be thinking about this? Um, we don't want to respond that way because, again, it kind of goes back to, or it goes hand in hand with the disbelief of, you know, oh, you shouldn't be struggling. Oh, like you actually have it so good. And it might put more guilt on the youth, if we phrase things as, why would you want to do that? You have a great life. When in reality, what that person needs is to just be listened to. They need to be heard. They need someone to be gentle with them, and they need someone to just love on them in that moment. We also don't want to respond with fear. So we don't want to immediately say, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Don't leave me. What about this person? What about this person? We don't want to respond in that way because one, it could cause fear in the youth. Not only that, but it's turning the conversation on ourselves, which is one thing that we do not want to do. We want to be there for the youth. We want to be there in their time of need. And, you know, it is very valid as an adult to need to talk to someone if you have a youth who is struggling with suicidal ideation. But if you do need to talk to someone, talk to a supervisor, talk to a therapist. Don't put that back on the youth. It's part of just having healthy boundaries in our jobs. So, looking at things to say, thanking the youth. This can be huge, and just allowing the youth to know that we care about them, that we believe them. So just thanking them for trusting you, for um, allowing you to support them in that moment. Thanking them for being open and honest with you. I think that is huge because a lot of our youth, or really just anyone, if anyone is struggling with suicidal ideation, they're probably terrified to tell someone that they're struggling with this, especially our youth. And so even just thanking them for telling you, for being honest with you about what they're going through, supporting them. So, hey, let's talk to someone who can get you help. So if you are not in a position, like let's say you're a teacher, um, I don't, if you're just not in a position to help the youth with their mental health, that is okay. You don't need to put that pressure on yourself, but get them to a mental health person, a mental health professional who can help them. So the school counselor, school social worker, um, if that student has a therapist that you know of, contacting that therapist and letting them know. But supporting them in whatever way that looks like for your occupation. Reassuring them, so you're not alone in this. I want to help you wherever you need help. I'm here for you. I care about you. And if you're a parent of a youth, just telling them, hey, I love you and I don't want you to doubt that I love you even when you're struggling with these things. So, when a youth tells you that they're thinking about suicide, but they do not have a plan to attempt, there there are so many things to think through if a youth tells you that they are struggling with thoughts of suicide. One thing to ask the youth is if they have a plan. If they do not have a plan, then here's kind of a course of action that you can take. So, staying calm, I know that is so much easier said than done. But we do want to stay calm when it comes to these situations because students can see when we are fearful. And if they see our fear come across, then they're going to get scared. Um, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be scared if a youth tells you that they're thinking about suicide. That is a very scary situation. But for the moment, try to do what you can to stay calm in that moment for the youth and for their well-being. Don't make the conversation about you. We kind of just talked about that earlier with things not to say to the youth. Take them seriously, believe them, even if that's just telling them, I believe you. Thank you for telling me. And then we want to ask about protective factors and do a safety plan with them. So over these next few slides, we're going to look at protective factors and a safety plan. So what are protective factors? They're pretty much are what it sounds like. They are anything that a youth or student can point to in their life that is protecting them against attempting suicide. So it could be things, people, memories, or really any reason that a youth would protect them. So what that might look like are a lot of different things. That might look like family for a youth. It might be friends for them, some peers. It may be pets. I've actually talked with a lot of students who have dealt with suicidal thoughts. And for a lot of my students, for them, it's their pets that are their protective factors. Their pets are very meaningful to them. They think of their pets as siblings. And so, you know, we want to utilize any protective factor for our youth, even if it is pets. Like, if adults think, oh, like pets aren't that big of a protective factor, for some youth, it can be huge for them. Academics, sports, partner, um, if they don't want to feel physical pain, and then morals and values. So for not wanting to feel physical pain, we want to be just kind of cautious of this one, just because if a youth gets to the point, or, if anyone, again, not just solely talking about youth, but if someone's struggling with suicidal thoughts and they get to the point where um, it's just so stressful and so overwhelming, um, maybe like a few months ago, they didn't want to feel physical pain, and that was a protective factor for them. But maybe the stress and the overwhelm just keeps kind of getting worse for them. Sometimes people might get to a point where they're willing to feel that physical pain. And so with protective factors, we just want to keep checking in with youth, keep checking in with what their protective factors are, if they're the same, maybe they're not the same, maybe they've changed, and if those protective factors are still working for them. So if a youth cannot identify any protective factors, you can assist them in thinking of some as a trusted adult. Um, this is huge because I think a lot of youth, they might struggle to really see reasons why they might not attempt, but maybe as adults we can be like, well, what about your friends? And then sometimes our youth may be like, oh yeah, like that's really true. Like my friends would be really sad, or um my I know my dog would be really sad without me, and I need to stay to take care of my dog. So even just helping them think through their protective factors and helping them think through um what things are helpful for them. So making a safety plan. This definitely has to do with protective factors. I'm going to come back to this slide in just a minute, but this is what a safety plan looks like. If you guys do not have like a physical paper safety plan, you can order these ones right off the screen. You can order these ones from SAMHSA for free. Amazing. Um, but I carry these around with me constantly. Every time I meet with youth one-on-one, I have these with me in case a youth is going through difficult things and they are experiencing suicidal thoughts. Um, I can just pull one of these out, go through it with them. So yes, if you go on SAMHSA's website, you can order these for free. Obviously, you don't have to. Let me go back to that slide that I was just on. Everything that is on this slide is on the safety plan that's on this slide. So essentially, a safety plan consists of a few main factors. And you don't have to order the whole thing. You can just copy these prompts and write them down on a piece of paper and then go through that paper with your youth. So, anyways, what's important is the bullet points on here. So, wanting to help the youth identify warning signs that a crisis is developing for them. So, what are some warning signs that a youth isn't doing well emotionally, mentally, physically? And just help the youth think through, well, how do you know that you aren't doing well with your mental health? How do you know that you're not doing well with just in your mindset and with your emotions? And then helping them identify coping strategies for them that can take their mind off of things. That might just be getting together with friends. It might just be a sport or a hobby that they enjoy. Listing who or what are three people or places that can provide distraction for this student. So again, that might be friends, it might be a partner, a school counselor, it might even be school faculty. Listing people who you can ask for help. So these two sound kind of similar, but someone who provides distraction is obviously different from someone who can help the youth. So maybe we can list friends as people who can provide distraction, but when a youth is in an emergency, and when they need someone to ask for help, we're gonna more so write down trusted adults on underneath of people that they can ask for help and list their phone numbers. So listing ways to get a hold of these adults that can help the youth. Also listing professionals or agencies that they can call. So this might be the number 988, the National Suicide Crisis Lifeline that they can call. It's 24/7. That's a resource that we'll look at the very end of the presentation. Maybe they have a counselor or a therapist. So writing down that number. And then writing out a plan to make their environment safer. This safety plan, it's going to look different for every single student. So I don't want everyone to think that it needs to look a certain way. But writing out a plan to make their environment safer, that can look so different for every youth. Maybe that means that um, I don't even know, that they have a crisis number ready to go whenever they need to. Maybe they memorize a guardian's phone number that they can call immediately. Maybe they come up with a safe word that they can have with their guardian or their friends, that if they say that word, then their guardian or friends know that they need help, and that that guardian can come get them from a situation. Maybe a safer environment looks like having distractions that youth can have and can do in their life. So taking precautionary measures, um, I realize this is a very triggering slide. So I realize if people need to self-care during this. But you know, in talking about suicide prevention, we do need to talk about taking precautions with our youth. So if you are worried about your youth, and this slide goes a lot back to parents. So maybe even if we can't secure certain medications, firearms, objects, if we can't secure these things because we aren't in the home with the youth, we can at least encourage the parents to do so. And so I think that's huge. If this is something that we have not thought about before with suicide prevention, um, just encouraging the parents to secure things in their home. And oh, there are a lot of caveats with this. I realize that that may be a hard conversation to have with parents, that might be really scary for the parents to have to think about locking firearms, medications, substances, just locking up different things that a youth or child could use. But this could save someone's life. And so if we need to have a scary conversation, or just a conversation that may just be really difficult to have with parents, it is worth it for the safety of the child and for the students. So, all that to say, we do want to take precautionary measures to secure anything that a student could utilize to harm themselves, or to attempt suicide. So that definitely looks like firearms, whether that looks like locking them in a safe. It could be just completely getting them out of your house. It could be maybe giving it to a different family member to hold on to for a while, a family member that that youth does not see, so that that youth cannot get that firearm. Securing any prescription medications that could be used for an overdose, any drugs of any sort. Securing ropes, belts, cords, or plastic bags, or anything that a youth can utilize for suffocation. This past bullet point, this may be something for people in schools or just like in different environments to be thinking of. Usually in the environments that we're in, we don't have firearms or medications just out and about, but we might have ropes, belts, cords, plastic bags. So even just being aware of what things are in your space that a student could utilize, or just like sneak home with them and utilize to potentially hurt themselves. So even just being aware of that. Securing all other substances or tools which could be used. So alcohol, cleaning substances, knives, sharp objects. Um, I know this might bring about paranoia for some people, but ultimately it is for safety. And we are doing the best that we can. Every single person is doing the best that they can to help protect people that they know and love. And so, that is all what this slide is about, is doing what we can to help protect people. So if a youth tells you they are thinking about suicide and they have a plan to attempt suicide, this is very, very serious. It's even more serious than just having thoughts of suicide, because if a student has a plan, that means that they are that much closer to actually attempting. So if a student has a plan, we need to be very, very careful. Staying calm, again, is the first thing to remember, to be aware of. Making sure the youth is safe. This is of the utmost importance. If you are not with that youth in the moment, like let's say you're a parent or guardian, and they're somewhere and they call you, and maybe they're talking to you on the phone about how they're struggling and they have a plan. Um, get to them as soon as possible. If you have another adult around you, have them call 911. Um, try to get to that youth, that student, as soon as possible. Um, or, let's say you are with the youth in person, face to face, and they tell you that they have a plan. Stay with them. Stay with them face to face. Don't even let them, I don't know, like don't leave them in a room to go get your phone. Be sure to stay face to face with them, so that you can see them, be sure they're safe. Take away any means that the teen or student could use to hurt themselves. So again, just looking at securing things that where they could harm themselves, and then assisting the youth in getting to the hospital. I realize this can be difficult for some youth. They might refuse to go to the hospital. In that case, you would need to call the police to be able to pick them up to go to the hospital. Um, but also with this, we want to be very still in tune with the youth, and how they're feeling. So maybe the youth tells you that they do have a plan. Um, and again, staying calm. Maybe you tell them, okay, hey, we need to go to the hospital for your safety. This is you're not in trouble. This is all just to keep you safe. And as we are telling the youth this, maybe if they hear the word hospital, maybe they start freaking out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't do this. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to see cops, whatever." Um, in that moment, if we see fear in their eyes, if we detect fear in their voice, it is of the utmost importance that we just reassure them, that we can calm them down and say, "Hey, I'm here with you. You are not going to do this alone. I, will go with you to the hospital," and just kind of doing whatever you need to do to help that youth stay calm in that moment. But also, if they have a plan, they do need to go to the hospital. So just reminders for us, if the teen has protective factors and if they say they will not attempt, but if you're a concerned parent, it is still completely and totally okay to take them to the hospital to be evaluated. Just because a youth has protective factors and says that they won't attempt, it's still very valid for a parent or a trusted adult to be concerned for a youth. And so still having a conversation with them of, hey, like, what do you think about going to the hospital to just get an evaluation done? Um, and having that conversation can be really helpful and really important. As an adult or parent, or just for any trusted adult in a student's life, you're not expected to be a mental health professional. I realize there are mental health professionals on this call with us today, and I'm so glad you guys are here. But I'm also so happy for any parents who are here today. You are not expected to be a mental health professional as a parent, or if you're like a youth pastor or just another family member, an aunt, uncle, grandparent, of a youth. That's why me and other people are in the job of being mental health professionals, is to help your youth. Every youth's experience is different. I think this is really important to differentiate because one youth who struggles with suicidal thoughts, they are not going to act the same as another youth who has suicidal thoughts. And so we just need to be very aware that it is going to look different for different students. Okay, there's been a lot of information, a lot of information that may have been triggering or just difficult to listen to. And so thank you guys for just sticking with me. Um, Good job if you guys just did some breathing exercises through that information, but there really is hope. All the students that I've worked with one-on-one who have struggled with suicidal ideation, praise God, they are still here. They are doing well. And I know so many students who are in recovery from struggling with suicidal thoughts, or even attempts as well. So there really is so much hope for our youth, and you guys are such a huge part of it. So thank you. But ways to help youth, get them into therapy. If a youth is not already in therapy, and they are struggling with suicidal thoughts, I would highly, highly recommend that you guys recommend to their parents to get them into therapy, to see a counselor. Um, that just gives them another resource. It gives them another trusted adult to talk to. It gives them a space where they don't have to worry about burdening someone with what they're feeling. That's a lot of what a student might deal with is they might struggle to tell people that they're struggling with suicidal thoughts because they don't want to burden other people and they don't want people to worry about them. And so to get them in with a therapist can help them just relieve that burden from them of, okay, I can tell this person whatever the heck I want to, and I don't have to worry about putting that burden on them. Helping them identify coping skills to utilize, whether that's hobbies. We'll go over some coping skills in just a minute. And then checking in with the youth daily, and also reminding them that you care for them. So daily, if that is possible for you, um, any chance that you get to see them, check in with the youth. Just, hey, how are you doing? Um, how have you been coping with stress in your life? How have you been coping with overwhelm in your life? Things like that. And obviously, if you're a parent, just continuously reminding them that you love them, that you're here for them. If you are just another trusted adult in their life or mental health professional, reminding them that you are here to support them. And yeah, you're not just leaving when times get hard for them. So coping skills for youth. We can utilize breath work with our youth. So box breathing, with hand breathing, you can just kind of show the youth that they can trace their hand. And when going up, they can inhale, and then going down, they can exhale. And then going up, they can inhale, and then going down, they can exhale. So just tracing their hand to breathe. Any box breathing is great for them. Distraction tools. So the breath work and distraction, they can be super helpful just to help that youth ground their body in the moment. So helping their body just to feel safer, where they don't feel as impulsive. That's how breath work and distraction can be helpful for our youth who are experiencing um, high stress in a moment. So utilizing five senses, um, what can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? What can you hear? Um, Going through all the senses. And um, yeah, that can be really grounding for them. Also, picking a color. So going through, hey, what do you see in the room that's red? Name them all off to me. Great. Name off every single thing in the room that you can see that's orange. And then go to yellow, green, blue, purple, gray, black, white. Um, and that can, again, just help them get their mind off of things. Being in the company of a supportive person, that is super helpful for the youth. I would even say, for us that are in the lives of youth pretty consistently, if we see a youth being in the company of someone who they think is supporting them, but actually is not being supportive of them. Uh, we can step in and say, hey, I just want to talk to you about this person that you say is your friend, but it doesn't seem like they're being super supportive of you. It doesn't seem like they respect you. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about, how sometimes you seem sad after leaving time with them? Um, and just kind of helping them identify what support looks like, what respect looks like, and how they can actually have those supportive friendships and relationships. Utilizing a crisis line. So these are crisis lines that I regularly share with my youth. 988, I try to always tell my youth about 988. It is incredible. National Suicide Hotline. It's also a crisis line. So even if a youth is not experiencing suicidal thoughts, they can still call 988. It is available 24/7, 911 as well. If there's obviously if they don't feel safe physically, but also if they don't feel safe mentally or emotionally, they can call 911 um, if they need that. There's a crisis text line. I love this text line because a lot of our youth, they feel more comfortable texting people rather than calling. And so to have a text line for our youth where they can text someone instead of calling them, I think is really helpful for the generation that is in middle school and high school right now. And then Help for WV, a local resource for our youth. This is great because they can call or text or chat online. So if they have a computer or iPad or whatever. So helping youth with change, this is just another way that we can help youth as trusted adults of helping them with change in life. Change can just be a huge stressor for our youth. So if there's any way that we can help them with all the change that's going on in their life, that can help be suicide prevention for them. So, looking at likes and dislikes, even just helping them discern what they like and what they don't like can be helpful. Encouraging them to try out hobbies or, um, if they like soccer, but they've just kind of played around by themselves and they haven't tried out for a team. Maybe encouraging them to try out for a team so that they can experience team bonding, they can make more friends, stuff like that. Helping with homework. Homework can be a huge stressor, just school in general. And so helping students study, understand material that maybe they wouldn't understand otherwise, um, just helping them with academics in any way possible could be a huge stress relief. Aiding and finding a job. So I have a lot of high school students who they're trying to find jobs. And it's been really helpful for them to just have something that they can go do and make money. And so maybe for your student, it might be helpful to help them find a job. Reassuring them in their talents and giftings. So maybe we have students who have not had an adult just tell them, hey, you are so talented at this. You are so good at this. Um, maybe that's drawing, coloring. Maybe they're really passionate about even just video games. Like, even if it's something as simple as video games, just sit down and let them talk to you about it for 10 minutes and listen fully, ask questions, just be interested in what they're interested in, inspiring new friendships for them, and then spending quality time with them. Just showing students that we care for them and that they're not an inconvenience for us. It goes such a long way. Students know when you're faking it with them and when you're being real with them. And so, just a continuous encouragement to be real with your youth and to love on them with genuineness. So a few notes for us. If you ever hear anyone, not just a teen, but specifically teenagers say KYS, for anyone who does not know what that means, it means kill yourself. Remind the youth that that is not okay to say. Or even if a teen is like joking, they just say, I'm gonna kill myself. But they're saying it in like oh, if I don't get lunch right now, I'm going to kill myself. I've heard students make that joke. At least that's how they say it. Um, they say that they're just joking when they say, I'm going to kill myself, or if they tell another teen, KYS. Um, this is a great learning moment and teaching moment for us to be gentle with them, but also firm of, hey, that's not okay to tell someone to kill themselves. You don't know what someone's going through, and they might take that very seriously, and that might be the last straw, and they might actually attempt because of you saying that. Um, if you guys aren't aware, that has been a very popular trend in high schools and middle schools, everywhere. And so just be aware of that, listen for that. It's been just very detrimental to a lot of students, who have been told this before. It can be so scary for youth to reach out for help. This is just a reminder, that we are adults. If we work with youth, it can be scary for youth to reach out to adults. And so just a reminder to be gentle, with your words, with your actions, with your tone of voice, um, and just to remember what it's like to be a teenager, that it can be hard, and to give grace to them. You may be the second, third, or first adult, that the youth has told about their struggle. Being aware of this, is helpful for a few reasons. If you're the first person, your reaction is the first, thing that they are going to notice. So, if your reaction is, "Oh, you have a great life," um, that could be very triggering for them. It may feel like you don't believe them. But also, if you were the second or third adult that they're telling, maybe they've had an adult before that hasn't believed them. Or maybe they've had an adult before who's just kind of pushed them off, and hasn't helped them at all. So just keep in mind that maybe we're not the first adult, maybe we are the second, third, fourth, fifth adult that they are sharing these things with, but maybe we're the first one to be gentle with them and to support them, in their process of trying to get help through, their difficult times. Millions of young people have had these thoughts and millions have recovered. There is hope. There's so many resources for our youth. And even if we do have to sit on waiting lists for therapists or counselors, it's worth it. It's worth it to wait for that. Lastly, believe youth. So taking care of yourself. Um, it can be so draining, to be a person that works with anyone struggling with mental health, or just have a youth in your life who's struggling with mental health. And so as we're talking about this, I don't want to leave here without giving you guys resources to just be, aware of your own needs, be aware of your own emotions. So just for right now, I want everyone on here to just take a minute and really ask yourself, how are you really doing right now? It doesn't even have to be surrounding work, it can be surrounding life in general, your family. How are you doing? Um, and be real with yourself, be honest. Are you feeling guilty? Are you feeling sad? Are you exhausted? Are you worried? Are you feeling depressed, scared? Just name the emotions. If you're struggling to name any emotions that you're feeling, you can, bring up a emotion wheel on Google and just start looking through those emotions on the emotion wheel until you find one that resonates with you. Um, just allow yourself to sit with that for a minute. You don't need to rush feeling this way. I think just taking time to realize how you are doing in this moment, it can be self-care for us. Just being aware of our emotions can be helpful for us to know what to deal with them or how to deal with them and what to do with them. And if you're having a hard time even just seeing, like even just realizing how you're feeling, I would really encourage you to reach out to a therapist, just to help you maybe become more aware and more in tune with your emotions and how you experience them. So once you have named that emotion for you, like how you are truly doing in the present, think of how you can honor that emotion. Maybe you can't do it today. Maybe you're too busy today, but maybe you can do it this weekend. Or maybe you can do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. We have the weekend. Praise God. The weekend's coming soon for us. Think of something that you can do this weekend to honor how you have been feeling and to honor your emotions. Even if you guys um, aren't like, if you don't have a youth right now who's struggling with suicidal ideation, if you're in the mental health care field, we have difficult jobs, right? And so we need to force ourselves to take time to look at our own emotions and see how we're doing. So just think of how you can honor your emotions. Do you need to journal them? Do you need to cry? When was the last time you cried? Just think about that for a minute. And then just allow yourself to know that it's okay to cry. Um, do you need to talk with a friend, with a therapist? Do you need to exercise? Maybe you just need to take a nap and make sure you eat more often throughout the day. That can be so helpful to make sure we have enough sleep and enough food in our body. So just some resources for us, not only for you guys as workers, but for your youth. Also, if you're a parent or caregiver or trusted adult on this call, you guys can give these to your youth as well. So, again, this is the crisis text hotline. I just talked about that a few slides ago. The 988 National Suicide Prevention. You guys do not have to take pictures of all of these. I can send out this PowerPoint to you all. So, if you're worried about remembering all of these, it's okay. We can send this out to you guys. Ways to get help. So this is also um, help for WV. This was on the slide a few slides ago. But this is a great local resource for our youth. Again, it has tech support, which I love letting our students know this. SAMHSA. If you guys go to SAMHSA's website, this is where you can get the free safety plans for your youth. Um, they are just incredible, amazing resources, a wealth of knowledge on there. Same thing with the National Institute of Mental Health, just incredible knowledge and resources for you guys, or just research for any mental health issue. For us locally, Prevent Suicide West Virginia, they are great. If you guys have not gotten to hear Barry Fawcett speak. She is the director of Prevent Suicide West Virginia. That is her 304 number under the Prevent Suicide West Virginia uh, website. But she is incredible. If you guys have the chance to go to any of her trainings, I would really encourage you to. She is like the leading woman on just suicide prevention for West Virginia. She's amazing. And then the American Association, my goodness, of Suicidology. It's an inclusive community that envisions a world where people know how to prevent suicide and find hope and healing. This is just a great organization that helps empower people who are either going through it or who have loved ones or are working with people who are going through it. These are some references from SAMHSA, from CDC, Mayo Clinic. So if you guys want to go to those articles, they're great and amazing. If you guys have any questions, please email me. Thank you for all the little hearts and claps. I really appreciate it. But yeah, so you can email me. Let me check the chat. I am so sorry. I have been really bad at checking it this whole time. So let me go go on here and see if you guys have any questions real quick.
Morgan, I've been checking it and I have not
Oh,
seen any questions yet.
lovely. Wow. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, well, if you guys, like I said, we can send the PowerPoint to you all. Um, Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. Um, yeah, we finished with about 10 minutes. So I'll stay on here for just a couple more minutes if anyone has any other questions. But thank you all. I do not take it lightly that you took an hour and a half out of your day to spend it with us. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a great day.
Yes, thank you, Morgan. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please check your emails for a next webinar. And then we will get the PowerPoint emailed to everybody at the beginning of next week. And then Becky has put in there a couple of times the instructions on in the survey link. So please make sure you fill that out so you can get CEUs, and those will be emailed to you within the next week. And if you don't receive it, please make sure you check your spam folder first. And if it's not in there, then you can reach out to us, and we will make sure we get your certificate.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.